Well, hi guys and gals, it's me George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and I got something a little bit different for you today. Look at this unit. I went and picked this up yesterday, and actually this isn't the reason I bought the unit. The reason I bought the unit was it was sitting on this, not bolted down, just sitting on it. But I bought both pieces. I paid 60 bucks for the pair. And I figured worst comes to worst, the motor's worth 60 bucks. It's not seized. It does turn over. I have no expectations that this generator setup actually works. It's all wired up, got a regulator on it, the whole 9 yards, but there's broken wires and yeah. Well, and if I was going to make a setup like this, I'd be using a one-wire setup, but a one-wire alternator instead of having one with a regulator. But somebody put some thought into this. Even got an amp gauge on it. You know what I'm saying? Pretty cool unit. But the reason I bought this is for that piece right down in there. Several people over the last 5 years have suggested that I probably should have a shaft drive on the Goofy cart and not all of those chains. Well, I started thinking about it after our last expedition, and I think I might try to do that. And so I started thinking about what could I use for a differential, and my first thought was for a Cub Cadet drive, shaft drive, hydrostatic transmission rear end. But that thing was so big and bulky that there wouldn't be enough room for it in the back hardly. And then I started thinking about a Rototiller drive. And of course this is very similar to snowblower drive. And you know, we already have a snowblower drive on the Goofy cart that has become our steering box. And that's worked out quite nicely. One of the things that one of the issues we might have with this should be tough because it's made to take the beating of beating the ground, but the gear ratio might be pretty low. So we'll have to take that into consideration. And you know how we can change gear ratios around by depending on how we get it hooked up in the front. If we use this as, it can't be direct drive because it would be too high up to go directly into the back of the motor. So my thinking is that probably we'll run a chain down to underneath the frame and then onto the drive shaft for this, and then the drive shaft would come right out the back. So essentially we would have one set of chains, although somehow, now that I say that, somehow in the mix I've got to incorporate my transmission. So we got a lot of thinking to do about it, but you know, the gear ratio might not be the best on this because you got to remember, see if I can, maybe if I flip this over, let me do that. Okay, now we got it flipped over. So now you can see the setup, and this has an enclosed drive shaft, but that's not a problem. We can always add on to that. But you're going to see that quite a few turns on this to get one turn out of that. Now that's not bad because you don't want the engine turning at the same speed as your rear end, because a small engine doesn't have that kind of power. So what I'm going to have to do is figure out what my gear ratio is and work from that. But this would be a pretty cool setup, I think. Not sure exactly how the looks. Is there a pin down in there? Can't tell. Not sure how the pulley comes off, but it obviously has to come off. And then this just unbolts here. And yeah, it looks like the whole thing is suspended off of this housing. So that'd be pretty cool. It'd be easy enough to get the shaft cleared off because it just has these removable pins, you know, that hold the tines on. So we take the tines off and you get axle shaft. We might have to extend them out a little bit, but that's not a hard thing to do either. So there's the next modification for the Goofy cart. Now I'm saying that, but I also want to tell you that before I get into doing this, I am going to fix the Goofy cart if I can. I'm not sure if I have a bent drive shaft or not on the Goofy cart, but if I don't, I mean a bent axle. If I don't have a bent axle, I'm going to try and fix the idler setup to the rear sprocket, which was the only thing that was causing our problems on our last runs. And that's ultimately what caused the chain to break or come apart. I don't know if it didn't actually look to see if it broke or just came apart. It might have just kicked off one of the master links. So I'm going to try and get that working one more time, because we get into doing this, we're going to be tearing the Goofy cart apart big time. The body will come back off and we'll have to take the whole rear suspension apart entirely. And yeah, there'll be a lot of major changes on it. And my thinking, now hold on now, be kind. My thinking is that maybe if we do this, we'll also upgrade to a V-twin motor. How would them apples be? Dual exhaust. Woo-hoo. Yeah. So that's the latest update on the Goofy cart. I'm thinking probably I'm just going to take the motor off of this unit. I'm not interested in fixing it up, make it into a generator. I already have a generator. But a good motor for some kind of project in the future. I'm not sure what size of engine it is. I don't see any indicators on it anywhere. No name tags. It's obviously a Briggs & Stratton, and I'll have to look for the numbers on it. But it looks to me like it's probably only a 3.5 horsepower, something like that. It's not very big. So, all right, no more goofing off. Say goodbye, Midnight. Say goodbye. Bye for now.